As her alarm went off, Jean rose out of her bed like a zombie. She was still tired and groggy, but it was time to get up. She stretched and yawned and felt like something was missing, but really didn't pay too much attention to it. She got out of bed, she washed her face in the bathroom to look up, and then she smiled and went to start brushing her teeth and realized her tongue was missing. She started to panic. She kept looking in her mouth, turning her face side to side, putting her fingers into her mouth where her tongue should go, and it was just not there. There was nothing there at all. She thought back. She knew she had a tongue yesterday, and there wasn't any blood in her mouth, so she wasn't quite sure where her tongue could have went. She went back into her room and searched her bed for any clues, looking to see if she found any blood or any type of knife or any other clue that could tell what might have happened. She recalled going to sleep with the tongue, but still yet nothing to be found in her room or bed to help clue her into what was going on. She ran around her house to see if there was anything of any type of importance that would be able to answer this question for her. The simple question of where her tongue was. She wasn't able to find anything. She sat down, and after crying for a good 10 minutes, she decided to pull herself together. She knew that since her tongue was missing, crying would not solve anything. She knew she would have to figure this out. There weren't any clues into her apartment, so she sat and thought long and hard about what possibly could have happened. After thinking and thinking and thinking, she finally had an epiphany. Right, she thought to herself. She remembered she was in some weird forest and met some weird beings yesterday. So maybe they were the reason why that she's having this issue now, and she should go back to find them. But she couldn't quite remember how she got there. And now that she thought about it, she wasn't sure how she got home either. So she decided to try to retrace her steps from yesterday morning. After going to the deli around the block and then heading to the gym, she thought that this wasn't really getting her closer to her goal, but she'll just have to keep trying. Then she remembered she did stop by the park for a bit. She went back to the park, she walked around, and even played in a sandbox with this kid that felt oddly familiar. She's seen the little girl, and it was just a sense of nostalgia that she knew this kid from somewhere, but she of course didn't remember her directly. But she still went and played with her in the sandbox, and as she was playing, the sand seemed to start to give way underneath them until they fell through the sandbox, with the sand included, down a chute until it landed her into a bigger vat of sand. But there was water all along the sand as well. So she thought this must be some type of beach. When she got up, she looked around for the kid, but the kid was now missing. That was odd to her, but it wasn't like she could do much. She couldn't call out to the kid since she didn't have a tongue. So she decided to start to wander around and try to figure out her surroundings. She wandered around the island for 20 to 30 minutes, completely lost and not seeing anyone else or anything else that would be able to help her, until she finally came to this shrine. It was massive. It had blues and reds and golds painted all around the outside, really drawing your eye and bringing so much attention to it. It had such beautiful detailing in the arches and the paintings. She was in awe. She wandered into the shrine hoping to find someone that would be able to help her, and before she was able to even make it to the door, there was a fox sitting on the steps. The fox almost looked as if it smiled at her, but she knew that couldn't be. It was simply a fox. until the fox began to speak. The fox stated, "I'm surprised that you came back. Better yet, I'm happy that you found your way here. What can we help you with today?" Jean immediately went to try to speak, forgetting that she didn't have a tongue, and nothing came out. She panicked and she looked distressed, and the fox said, "Of course you're back. You wanted to find your tongue, right?" She nodded her head yes frantically. She was so happy that the fox even knew what she was looking for, to not even realize why the fox might know this information. The cute small fox said nothing else, but started to make its way towards Jean. And as it got closer to Jean, it started to transform into the little kid that was playing in the sandbox, with now long ginger hair, matching the color of the fox's fur when it was in fox form. She said, "I'm so happy that you made it back to our island. Of course, we'll be happy to play with you, and we'll be very happy to help you find your tongue. But you know that you'll have to find the pieces yourself. But we can guide you." Jean was happy that she was able to get her tongue back. Everything else that seemed weird or out of place, she decided to just push into the back of her mind, because that was not what was important right now. It was about finding her tongue. So she just nodded yes again. She pointed at her tongue as she was nodding yes frantically even more. The fox said, "Okay, perfect. So we'll be happy to help you get your tongue back into your mouth, but you'll have to find all the pieces. It has been smashed into smithereens and spread across this here island. And only you can gather the pieces, putting it together like a puzzle, which then we'll be happy to make sure we put back in your mouth. However, there is a time limit. Once the sun goes down, the time will be up, and you'll have to say bye to your tongue for good." The island is actually quite small, no matter how big it might feel around you, but you would be able to cross through it all in the matter of a day, which, with the sun where it's at now, that gives you about 6 hours to figure out where all the pieces are. Now, some may be out in the open, and others you might have to, let's say, work for. But no matter what, if you bring back the pieces, then we'll be able to help you put it back in your mouth. I will admit, though, that since it was smashed, and not just softly smashed, but smashed to smithereens, you might have some troubles finding it. But we believe in you, so don't worry, and just get out there and collect as many pieces as you can. Find your way back here, or we'll come find you once the sun goes down, just in case you're lost. Now, off, on your way." And the fox shooed Jean off with her hand. Jean didn't know where to start, and since she couldn't really ask any questions because she can't speak, she figured the best thing to do is just to begin. So as she was walking out of the shrine, she seen something glimmer in the corner of her eye, and when she walked over to it, when she got really close, it was something very small, and she couldn't tell exactly what it was, but it seemed like it had a very unnatural shine to it. She picked it up and tried to examine it some more in her hand, and the more she looked at it, the more confused she was. It was a soft pink color, but it had a very bright goldish shine to it, and it was glimmering. But then as she examined it some more, the fox, now back in its fox form, was sitting right beside her. Said, "Look, you're already off to a good start. You found the first piece. Keep it up, and you'll be just in luck." And then the fox, turning back into the young child's form, handed her a small bag. and said, "You can hold all your pieces in here. They should fit perfectly fine so you don't lose anymore." Jean nodded and grabbed the bag and bowed to her in a form of thanks as she continued on walking. She walked on for a while, finding a few pieces of her tongue here and there, just all over the place, picking them up, but she seemed to kind of run out of luck until she looked up into the tree and seen a glimmering something from the top. She knew that must have been another piece of her tongue, but the tree didn't look like it was climbable. It reminded her of a palm tree, but it was completely sleek, so there was no way to get any type of grip on it. And as she sat there and pondered about how to get to the top of the tree, a small fox appeared. This one was not the same fox that she spoke with earlier, but a gray fox this time, and it was much smaller than the earlier fox. The fox asked, "Oh, hello there, you're looking for your tongue? Well, that piece up there is absolutely it, but of course, you'll have to do something for me before I can get it down for you." She nodded her head, and the fox continued, "Well, I am really hungry, and I would really like to eat some fish, but I don't have a fishing pole, so I would need you to catch me a fish." Jean looked curiously to the small gray fox, and after a while she just shrugged and nodded her head yes. She went to the shore and looked around, and she seen that there were many fishes, but with no fishing pole or any other material really to catch a fish, she didn't know what to do. After looking around some more and going back into the tree area, she was able to fashion herself a spear. She did recall reading about spearfishing once. She's never tried it before, but she figured this was the best time as any. After 10 minutes of trying to catch a fish, she finally was able to get one. She took it back to the fox, and he accepted the fish as he climbed up and got her piece of tongue down and gave it to her. And then she decided to be on her way. And again, she found more of the tongue pieces here and there, just scattered about. And then she came to a very large fox sitting on top of a house. This house was very odd, seeing that this was the only house in the whole island that she's come across yet there was this massive fox just on top of it as if it was so normal. And as she looked around through the windows, she was able to see that there was some tongue pieces within the house. And so the fox jumped down and went to her. "Well, I can help you get those tongue pieces that you're looking for if you help me finish some work." She nodded her head yes, confused at what he would mean by work. The fox continued, "Well, as you can see, I'm quite the large fox, and I'm unable to get into this house, but it needs to be cleaned. If you can clean it for me, you'll be able to get in and get those pieces. Do we have a deal?" She thought cleaning up a house in the middle of this search would have took too much time, but what other option did she have? If she were to continue without these pieces, how would she ever get her tongue back in her mouth? So she nodded and agreed, and took the time to clean up the place as well as grabbing those pieces of tongue on her way out. And then she continued on her journey through the island to find more pieces. After coming upon quite the many more, she came across two foxes, one that was all black and one that was all white, that were laying down next to each other. They jumped up when she came by, and they approached her and asked, "Can you help us?" She nodded yes, assuming that this would lead her to more of those smithereens that used to be her tongue. They circled around her as they both spoke to her back and forth, stating that they have some fox pups that like to play hide and seek, and they're having a hard time trying to find them. There's 3 of them, and if she's able to find them, then of course they'll be able to reward her. So she took up the challenge. They told her that they wouldn't be far, they'll be somewhere along the shore within the vicinity that they were already in. It's just a matter of finding them. She was able to locate them, one of them buried in the sand, one of them out on a small boat, and the other rustled in some bushes, and she brought them back to their parents, and in return she was able to receive more pieces of her tongue. She felt like she was getting somewhere because she was getting so many pieces, but at the same time she didn't understand when she would be done, since there was never really a definite amount. So this continued on for the next few hours. She found more pieces laying by the wayside, as well as helping other foxes with their tasks and jobs and games, until the sun finally set on her. She wasn't sure if she had all the pieces, and she was panicked at this point. And then she was approached by the first fox that she met in child form. The fox grabbed her hand and said, "Come with me. We'll see what you got and we'll give you your tongue back." She grabbed her hand and they walked off. Once they made it back to the shrine, she got the bag of tongue from Jean and dumped it into a crystal bowl. Shaking it around continuously, the tongue all started to form together, and it looked just like a real tongue. It was missing a few chunks out of it, which must have meant she was missing some pieces. Jean got very disheartened, and tears started to stream down her eyes. The fox said, "It's very unfortunate you weren't able to collect all the pieces, but luckily we'll still be able to give you your tongue back. You did such a good job. I think we can manage this much." And Jean wiped away her tears and was elated. The fox grabbed the bowl, walking up to Jean, and simply put it to her mouth, making her drink from it as if it was a cup. And she held her hand over her mouth once all the tongue pieces were inside. And after a few moments, when she removed her hand, Jean was able to speak again because she had her tongue. She was excited. She was so happy. She started to sing and dance and just jump for joy. It was a very good feeling that she was able to get her tongue back. She didn't even realize how much she missed speaking until she was able to speak again. She started to cry tears of happiness and thanked the fox over and over. The fox told her, "Well, there's no real reason to thank me. We were going to give you your tongue back anyway. We just get lonely sometimes and we really like to play. So we just wanted you to come and enjoy your time with us because you had so much fun with us yesterday. We thought you would enjoy spending another day with us and playing with us." Jean's happiness dripped from her face immediately. She took a couple steps back, shaking her head in disbelief. She couldn't comprehend why this was all just supposed to be a game to them. She was so upset, and after not talking all day, she wouldn't have thought she'd been at a loss for words, but she was. When Jean finally spoke, she simply said to the fox, "This is really messed up, and I feel bamboozled. If you wanted to play with me, all you had to do was ask. You didn't have to go through such lengths and put me in such a bad state just for that to happen." The fox apologized and said it's not that they didn't want her to ask, but usually once humans leave their island, they don't remember them. The only way they can get people back is by taking something and hoping that that person is able to find their way back in hopes of finding whatever item that they took. She shook her head again and said, "No, you simply bamboozled me. There's no way around it. I would like to go home now, and I don't know if I want to come back again now at this point." The fox was really sad. It broke her heart that she would hear someone say that they wouldn't want to come back. She just nodded disheartedly and said, "It's okay. I'll lead you back out. I do hope you remember us and come visit again." And so she did exactly as she said. She let her out. She wakes up groggy, feeling like she had the longest dream. She reaches for her tongue, and once she realizes that it was there, she understands that she must have had the most incredible dream the night before. And so she gets up and gets ready to start her new day. She goes into the bathroom, splashes water on her face, and as she wipes it away, she realizes her nose is missing. Now she's not sure if that was all just a dream or if she's been bamboozled again. The only way to find out is through the sandbox. And that wraps it up for this week's story. Not gonna lie, Smithereens and Bamboozle, those words almost had me out of there, but I think the story came together pretty nicely. And it had some fantasy elements and foxes, which I love. So don't forget to come back next week when we dive into another sandbox that'll lead us to a whole new story from a new set of words.